Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, it is Brian Kaz here, joined by my friend and business partner, Sean Casey. If you can hear my voice and see my screen, which is just essentially a PowerPoint, just say a quick yes, just so I know I'm not talking to myself here. Okay, all right, good. So on this call right here, we'll essentially be talking about what I call like new age SEO, or basically everything you need to know to get ranked today, because a lot of information out there oftentimes can be kind of outdated, and like new stuff can or new factors in terms of what can work or not work in terms of ranking can change over time. And although the basics of it we find tend to stay typically the same, there's a few oddball things that can actually change over time, especially in the last few years. And throughout the years, we've seen a variety of changes, although I'd say the core of it tends to stay similar. There's still a few things that can change. So on this call, we'll basically be talking about what you have to do to get ranked in this day and age. And of all the stuff, some of it will be stuff that we've basically talked about before, like some of the basics that you've probably heard elsewhere too, and some of it will be kind of new. So we'll kind of combine a lot of things into one right here to give you a formula, so you guys can use this to get ranked and whatnot as well. So without further ado, we will get this show on the road here. So once again, my name is Brian Kaz, and I'm joined by my friend and business partner, Sean Casey. And on this call, it will be about, again, everything you need to know to get ranked today. And we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end as well, or I should say we'll have some time at the end for the Q&A as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask those in the chat box. And if one of us does not answer it in the chat itself, I'll answer it live towards the end of this call. And again, these calls are every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is right about now, where we'll have a live training and or a Q&A call for our members. If you're here or you're registered for the series, you'll get a reminder each week, so don't forget. But if you can't make one, we'll have the recordings in the members area within a day of any of the calls under the training tab on the left side navigation bar. So you just would click on the training, then you'd click on the Wednesday calls, and you'll see all the recordings right there with the most recent ones at the very top. And of course, you can search those. And yes, we will have this one recorded, and it will be there either later today or by tomorrow morning or so at the latest right there. So we'll show up at the very top there. And as always, we have a free Facebook group that you should join right now. It's if you go to getwebfire.com/FB group, that will just forward you to the Facebook link to join the group. And if you're not a free member, just click the join button, and Sharon should approve of you probably within a couple minutes or so if you do so now. And you'll want to do that now, because towards the end of this call, you'll have a chance to win $100 live on the call itself, where we'll do a drawing live, but you have to be a member of that group to participate in that and have a chance to win that. So we'll give some more instructions on what to do there in just a bit. So now let's move on to our training for this weekend, everything you need to know to get ranked. So we'll first basically cover all those tips right there, which I call like new age SEO, or basically what you need to know now to get ranked. Then we'll have a little time for Q&A, and then we'll give some cash away. So starting into the main point, which is new age SEO and everything you need to know to get ranked. So this talk will basically focus on how to rank your sites or your client sites using the latest ranking techniques, which consist of several different techniques than what you may have heard elsewhere. But the following techniques, when combined, are almost guaranteed to not only rank you now, but well into the future, as we only promote the techniques that the search engines want you to do. So these don't include any black hat tricks or anything like that that never lasts long. So these are all meant to last a long time, because they're ultimately what the search engines want you to basically do. So there's really 5 things that you need to do to rank well. Now, you don't necessarily need to do all 5, as even just a couple of them can get you ranked well, but when you do all 5 at once, you greatly increase your chances of top rankings, even for more competitive keywords and terms. So here are the 5 things that you should do to rank for almost any term. Step number 1, research your keyword or keywords and know how competitive they are compared to the relative search volume and the type of traffic. To see how competitive a keyword is, you want to search Google for the keyword or keywords and see how many of the organic results. And by organic, I mean the ones not labeled as an ad. So you don't want to count anything with the ad itself. You just want to look at the organic results, and you want to see how many of those organic results contain the exact keyword phrase somewhere in their title tag, which typically the blue links that you see when you do a Google search, all those links that show up with a blue link, the words in the blue links are typically the title tag right there. So you want to see how many of those on page 1 contain the exact phrase side by side. So if your word is best massage chair, you want to see how many of the top 10 or so on page 1 have the exact phrase best massage chair. So if it has like what is the best out of these massage chairs, as a word like that, even though it contains those three individual words, you're only looking for the exact phrase side by side. So there can be words before it, there can be words after it, but you're looking for how many contain that exact phrase side by side somewhere in their title tag. If there's 5 or more that contain that, it'll be a much more competitive keyword to rank for that, which will require some extra work. And for sure, basically doing as many of these steps as you can would be needed if you're trying for like a very competitive keyword. But if there's only a couple or less exact matches, with those results in the title tag somewhere, you'll have a good chance of ranking for these keywords if you use them in your web page titles or your blog post titles or your video titles or whatever it might be right there. So you're looking for the ones that have very few exact title tag matches. And the cool part here is, again, the main keyword tool inside of WebFire can automatically help you look at this, and it will tell you how many exact title tag matches there are, and the easier keywords will show up in green versus red for you. So it can do a lot of this work for you. If there's 0 sites using that keyword in their title, you have an almost guaranteed chance of ranking simply by targeting it in your own title. So when there's 0 sites that contain an exact title tag match, typically that means you have a very easy chance of ranking. I mean, it'd almost be hard not to if you actually try. So after you've determined that you have a keyword that isn't too competitive, you want to make sure that it's at least one of the following 2 things. Either something that gets enough searches each month to make it worthwhile, which usually is at least several hundred or more searches a month, or a keyword that is more likely to be a keyword a buyer would be searching for. For instance, ranking for a keyword like buy a diamond online versus just diamond, even though buy a diamond online will have a lot less searches than diamond as a whole, probably like a tiny fraction. If they're searching for that phrase, you know that, most likely they're looking to buy a diamond online. Where if they're just searching for a diamond, you don't know if they're looking to buy one, you don't know if they're doing research on one, you really have no clue. So even though it might have, maybe 100 or 1,000 times as many searches, a lot of it will be basically junk, and it will be extremely competitive at the same time. Whereas the other one might be a lot more wide open and a lot more likely to be buyers. So even though there's a smaller search volume, it can be more worthwhile to get ranked and much easier to get ranked. A good buyer keyword doesn't have to have a ton of searches to be worthwhile, but the less buyer type keyword you have, the more search volume you'll want to make it worth targeting. Luckily, WebFire has a few keyword tools, and the main keyword tool inside of it is the most useful one here, that can help you not only identify which keywords have the best search volume, but also which ones will be the easiest to actually rank for in any market, along with tons of keyword suggestions for you. Now, there's some exceptions to the rule here, so I just want to be, completely upfront right here and, say what some of those exceptions are. Some extremely competitive and short keywords like diet or weight loss sometimes don't follow the title tag rule. So sometimes some very broad keywords, and usually these are ones that are not only extremely competitive and have like tons and tons and tons and tons of searches, but are very short too, like one word keywords, occasionally two-word ones. Sometimes they don't follow the rule I just said, because what basically Google does especially is they're smart enough to know that if it's a very popular term, like let's say weight loss or diet, they know that there's probably like a couple dozen or more related keywords that are very close to that. So they tend to kind of group those two together, and they tend to rank the more authoritative sites that are well known for like weight loss or diet as a whole. So some super competitive short phrases like that don't necessarily follow the exact rules I just said, but you at the same time you'd want to be probably avoiding most of the super competitive ones anyway. Whereas if you take kind of like a sub niche or a longer tail keyword within that niche, like let's say the diet or the weight loss niche, the same rules that I just said will still apply perfectly fine. And the reason why, again, Google's getting smarter and knows that, if you're looking for a phrase like, let's say diet, it might be, very similar to, diet or diet plan and stuff like that. Whereas weight loss, they know might be similar to lose weight and stuff like that too. So they're smart enough, and they kind of, especially in the past couple years or so, especially the last year, they've started to kind of group a handful of keywords together. But typically, this is just for the super competitive, very short ones in very big markets like that. So if you stick to kind of the longer tail keywords or the markets that aren't insanely competitive, the prior rules I said will work perfectly fine. So like probably 99% of the keywords out there will follow the rules that I just laid out. I just want to point that out for the 1% that do not. So the second then, or the second exception, is not all keywords, especially ones far less used, like ones that have 100 or have less than 100 or so searches a month. Not all the keywords get essentially traffic stats on them, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad. And here's why. So if you're looking for, let's say, a phrase that is like super long, and there's like, let's say 20 people a month that do a search, Google won't necessarily track that info because there's like too many keywords out there for them to track everything. So they don't track everything. It's just like the not even the most common ones, but if it's like only a handful of people searching, they might not get the stats on them. So they might say that there's 0 searches, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there really is that. It just means that there's very, very few. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad, because if there's like, let's say 10 or 20 searches for let's say someone's looking for, I don't know, a gold shop in your local small town of like 5,000 people, they know that, hey, there might not be more than like 20 or 30 searches a month, but you still want to rank there because one sale could be worth a ton of money there. Or even on a more long tail keyword for like a non-local term, if someone's searching for a phrase that might be more likely to be an indicator of a buyer, even if there's only like 50 searches or so a month, it can still be worthwhile to get the traffic from there. Question keywords, or basically keywords that are like a question that might start with like how to blah 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 blah, can also be a great exception to this at times as well, because people can ask a lot of questions, and sometimes the way they word the question, like there's probably if you think about it, there's probably hundreds of ways to ask almost the exact same question. So sometimes some of the questions out there might have a lot less searches for that exact phrase, but Google's smart enough to kind of group some of the questions together, and at the same time, questions can be a great way to rank because not a lot of people try to rank for a question, but if you target especially questions that people might ask prior to buying a product, like for instance, like what is the best massage chair online, or what is the difference between a 50cc engine or a 50cc engine and a 150cc engine in a moped. It might not get a lot of searches itself, but the people that are asking that are probably on the brink of buying and just have to do like a little more research to find out what might be the best fit for them. So that's why I still encourage you to basically brainstorm all the questions that people might ask in your niche, and then try to target those keywords on your blog posts, in your web pages, on your videos, on your articles, and all that too. So step number 2 then is to make sure to optimize your site for the keywords that you picked, especially in your title tags and blog post titles. So this means that after you pick the keywords that you think you have a good chance of ranking for, have them in your titles, have them in your title tags. Make sure to use them. Having keywords in your title tags can be one of the biggest factors in ranking, especially for low to mid competitive keywords. Each web page that you have on your website can have a different title tag, just like how each blog post on a blog can have a different title for each blog post that you have, which again is basically treated as a separate web page. So every blog post you have, every web page you have is basically treated like a separate page, and you can target different keywords in your titles and such. So you can have one page basically targeting each of the keywords to increase your chances of ranking for multiple keywords, but make sure that obviously the content reflects the keywords that you're trying to rank for too. So don't just have keywords in the title, but have it within the content, and also make sure that the content is relevant. I've seen a handful of cases where basically clients would want to rank for a keyword that they never even use on their site, let alone really target it on their title, or vice versa. There's some that want to rank for keywords that they target in their title tag, but they never use on their site. It's kind of like if your site is on weight loss tips for men or for senior men, you don't want to try to rank for a term like weight loss tips, because again, your site isn't just about weight loss tips. It's about, in this case, specifically weight loss tips for men. So Google knows that, and they want to try to make sure that they only rank you for the stuff that you're relevant for. Even though they're related, you want to make sure that you have the content that's basically spot on with what you're trying to rank for. If you don't know how to edit your title tags, keep in mind that many blog platforms usually have the titles of your blog posts default to your title tags. Now, while you can Google how to edit your title tags, or hire someone to do it for you or otherwise, you should keep in mind that you can use Webfire to automatically help you adjust your title tags and such, even if you're not a technical person or computer savvy at all, using our built-in SEO tool. In fact, just want to say in the past month, I forgot which call it was, but in the past month or so, one of the last few calls we actually did a walkthrough of how you could use the SEO tools to automatically change all those issues on your site. And we did the walkthrough not only on WordPress, but also with the standard HTML site. So if that's of interest to you, make sure that you watch that prior call on that right there, because it's super easy to do. Only takes minutes to basically adjust all that. You can even use it to help adjust a lot of other things on your site too, to help with your rankings, like the image or the alt tags, the header tags, the description tags, the sitemaps, so on and so forth. All stuff you don't have to necessarily worry about if you know nothing about it, as long as you have the tool to help you. So don't get like essentially bogged down by all the technical terms and all that stuff, again, you can use the tool to help you handle all that. But if you follow the 5 main things here, a lot of those extra things are just basically icing on the cake. Now, here's a pro tip right here. Try targeting a new blog post, web page, video, or an article or whatever with a new and different keyword that you optimize for, and rinse and repeat the process for the best results. So you don't want to just target, 1 or 2 keywords on your site. Each week or each month or however much time you have. I mean, if you only have, let's say, a few hours a month, great. If you have a few hours a week, great. Then each time make like, a new page or a new post or a new video where you target a different keyword each time, following the exact same process I'm laying out for you right here. Because if you do that over time, you start to kind of build up this spider web that can grab more and more traffic out there and kind of bring it in to your site. And a lot of these can last for years and years and years and years and years. So keep that in mind. Step number 3 is make sure that your titles and your title tags are not only optimized for the proper keywords, but that they're also compelling to get more clicks. And this has been a larger factor in the last several years. The first time I noticed this was actually years ago, but seems to be more and more of a factor as time goes on right here. So if you initially get ranked, but then no one hardly ever clicks through to your site, what do you think that tells Google? It tells them that it shouldn't be ranked there. But what if you get a lot of clicks because you have a compelling title, even if you're not ranked at the very top? That tells Google that basically people like your site over the other sites and should rank you higher, which they do. Now, you can have a compromise between an SEO-friendly title and a compelling title at the same time. For instance, if you wanted to rank for the keyword puppy potty training, instead of just having a title of puppy potty training, which is kind of boring, even though it's SEO friendly, you could target a title of puppy potty training dash 5-minute trick or 5-minute method or whatever it might be. Now, both of the titles contain the keyword puppy potty training, but the second one contains extra words that make it far more compelling to click through to, even if you're not initially the #1 ranked site. The most compelling titles tend to almost always win the game if there's more competition, so definitely keep that in mind when you're competing against others, but still make sure that your content is relevant to the title. Now, as a side note, I'll just like switch back to the example right here. As a side note, another trick that you can do, which a lot of people don't take advantage of, is you can actually target multiple different kinds of keywords within each other within your title tag. So let's say that your main keyword that you want to rank for is puppy potty training. Okay, you can follow the example we just gave here of basically having puppy potty training dash 5-minute trick, which can work well and be far more compelling. But you can also add additional keywords, like you could say fast puppy potty training dash 5-minute trick, or best puppy potty training trick dash 5-minute method. Something like that, where what you do then is not only do you have the main keyword puppy potty training, you also have stuff like fast puppy potty training or best puppy potty training method. There's a bunch of different keywords that you can target within each other by having like a word or two before or a word or two after. And what that basically does is it gives you a chance to not only rank for the main keyword that you're going after, but you could possibly rank for other additional keywords too, and basically have a backup. So like if you don't get the keyword you want, you might rank for the backup one, which again might not get as many keywords, or not keywords, might not get as many searches, but still gets you ranked for something. So I like to always add like a word or two before or basically after it as well, to give myself an extra chance to rank more. Like in this case, I might say best puppy potty training method dash 5-minute trick or technique or anything like that. Reason why is because I could possibly rank for best puppy potty training, or I could rank for puppy potty training method, or something along those lines. So even though it might not get as much as maybe the puppy potty training by itself, I have it as a backup. So it's just kind of like having a backup plan where if you have like 2 or 3 different words within one, you give yourself a much greater chance of ranking, and it's also more compelling at the same time. And just to clarify again, the words like 5-minute by itself, no one will search for that, or I should say probably no one will search for that term right there. That's only there to make it more compelling, whereas the rest is there to give you basically a better chance of ranking. So just want to clear that up real quick. So moving on to step number 4, you also want to keep readers on your site and engaged at the same time. And this is a big one too that's been a larger factor in the last 5 years or so, and it will continue to be more and more of a factor. If someone clicks on your site from Google and then immediately leaves, what do you think it tells Google? It basically tells them that your site doesn't have what they're looking for. But if someone clicks on your ranking and then stays, what does it tell them? It tells them that they found what they're looking for and should probably rank you. That's why you want to make sure to try to keep readers engaged on your site with longer yet interesting content, engaging graphics, videos, links to internal pages, which basically means other pages within your site, and so forth. And basically just make sure that there's good quality content that reflects what you're trying to rank for, that truly would be of interest to the reader. Interesting infographics or videos can keep them engaged much longer, as can links to other content that you have on your site. The longer they stay, the more likely Google will think that your site should not only maintain its rankings, but that it should increase its rankings as well. Even factors like if others comment on your blogs and such can play a role as well. But one of the top factors is definitely how long they stay relative to other links that they might click in the search engines. And again, luckily, Webfire has a lot of great content and video tools to help you keep your readers engaged if you want to automate more of it. Now, as a pro tip, don't overthink this, okay? Just make sure that you have content that someone searching for the keyword you want to rank for legitimately would want to read. So sometimes I get guys that hear this and then they're like, oh, so I should have like basically a 50-page site or like a 50-page long article on a blog post instead of 1 page because I want to keep them there longer. No. In fact, in some cases, you'll scare them off if you have like tons and tons and tons of content. And I'm not saying you have to keep them there for like hours upon hours. I'm just saying if they click to your site and immediately click back, that's bad. Like if they're on your site for like a second or 2 and then leave, that's bad. Whereas if they go to some other sites and then they click back, and then they stay on your site for, let's say, even a minute, that's a good sign. Even a half minute, that's a good sign because it tells Google that, hey, they liked your site enough to stay on it and it's probably relevant to the search that they did. So it probably has the content that they were looking for. So don't think that you have to make it super long. You just have to make sure that you have the content that they're looking for, it's easy to read, and that they can clearly see within a second that you have the information that they want, that you have exactly what they're looking for, and they don't need to leave your site to go to another one. And a little secret I'll tell you too is that if you are trying to check your rankings by hand, especially if you're like trying to rank for like a search term that doesn't get a lot of traffic, or it's like a local term for like a small town that just doesn't get a lot of searches, don't just click on your site and immediately click back, or don't just do a search and not click anything, because sometimes for like those smaller terms, I've seen that you can accidentally like hurt your own rankings, because it's like, reason why, if there's only like 5 searches a month and you search for yourself 3 of those times and you never stay on your site, that can factor in to how Google looks at you, I think, from what we've seen. Whereas, so what I like to do is if I do a search, I'll actually click and stay on my own site for a while there for those smaller search terms. Now, for the larger ones, that won't even be a factor or much of a difference at all. But just thought I'd mention that as well. But yeah, main thing is don't overthink this. Just have the content that people would basically want to read. So tip number 5, which is the final thing that you'd want right here, is to get backlinks and use social signals. I'll explain what those all mean in just a bit. So backlinks are basically other sites linking to your web pages. They can be from articles or videos or other blogs and sites, doesn't matter, just basically other links linking to you. Now, there's lots of spammy tools out there that just get you a ton of crappy backlinks, but these tend to do more harm than good, especially long-term, as Google and the others look for quality over quantity. You want links from other relevant web pages linking to you. You can get these by making some relevant videos that link to your sites, posting in forums, and again, valuable information first and foremost you want to be posting here, and also blogs. You can do guest blog posts where you basically blog for another person's blog, doing press releases, and distributing your content around as much as possible to relevant sites. Just make sure that you're not just spamming links all over. You want to make sure that the links are accompanied by valuable information in the posts that you're doing or the content that you're distributing. You don't need a ton of these backlinks to get awesome results, but having just a few of them can drastically help your own rankings, especially for more competitive keywords. And they don't even have to be from sites that aren't yours, although that can definitely help, especially if it's like an authority or like an established site. But even just by having a video or two out there, or another blog out there, or an article somewhere else out there that links back to you, can help your own rankings. And again, Webfire has several tools available where you can get not only more backlinks, but extra traffic and leads at the same time, like its Rank Lead Finder, Real-Time Lead Finder, Guest Blog Finder, Q&A Lead Finder, so on and so forth, on top of our content submitter and Video Firestorm tool. As for social signals, these are things like your site being mentioned on social media places like Facebook and Twitter, so on and so forth, as well as people commenting or interacting with you. Now, this can be easy to accomplish by mentioning your websites or your blog posts on your social media accounts like Facebook and so forth, encouraging people to like, share, and comment. And it can not only help you rank your sites, but it can also be an excellent place to get even more leads and interaction with your prospects. So although you can post to your social media accounts manually, Webfire has a special tool called Social Poster Fire that can not only schedule these postings for you, but it can also optionally recycle through them to make them never-ending as well. So you can basically say, hey, I want you to post once a week for 10 weeks or so. Then after that, recycle through those and post again and have that on complete autopilot basically indefinitely. And that can give you some social interaction and social signals as well, because it says, hey, you have a social media account, you're a live and active site, and that can help your own rankings as well right there. If you do even a couple of these 5 steps, you'll start seeing some rankings, but if you do all 5 of them, it'd be hard not to rank for the vast majority of the keywords out there. And although there are definitely more helpful SEO tips and advice and stuff that you'll learn, throughout the training and inside of Webfire and on all these calls, if you stick to these 5 steps right here, you'll be off to a great start and obtain some great rankings. In fact, I'd go as far as saying I've never seen a client use these tactics on multiple web pages and not have at least some ranking well if they followed all the steps properly. Now, I also want to mention a few extra tips as well, which I thought, I don't think they're necessarily like, like top 5 main things, but I think they're important enough to also mention, because if you mess up on a couple of these, it can hurt you quite a bit too. So one of them is to use schemas, which we've talked about a lot on prior calls. But it's basically extra information that you provide to places like Google, and especially for like a local business, but you can do it even for non, local businesses. It's information you provide them. Like if you're a local business, you can give them, your phone, your address, what your hours are, what your menu is if you're a restaurant, what your number is if you want to click to a call. If you're like a non-local site, you can still give them lots of information, like the prices of your products if you have them, what some other links are to your other pages. There's a whole bunch of info that you can give them, and this is all available within the schema maker inside of Webfire, which can submit that information for you. And this can actually help you rank, especially on mobile, and especially give you an extra edge right there. And the good news is it only takes a matter of minutes to basically do, so it'd be kind of dumb not to. If you don't know what a schema is, make sure to search our past calls for that right there, and I can show you briefly in just a little bit, an example what a schema looks like online if anyone is new here and doesn't know what that is. So in just a bit, when I switch the screens over, I'll show that. You also want to have a mobile-friendly site, and what that means is that you want to have it look normal on a mobile phone or like an iPad. Some people have sites that look really awesome on like a desktop or like a laptop, but once they go to like a mobile phone, the site looks horrendous. Like there's essentially a graphic that might basically take up the entire phone, and you have to scroll over. You can't see any text. I mean, it's just not good. So you want to have it mobile friendly, because Google especially will oftentimes penalize you if someone does like a mobile search. If your site isn't mobile friendly, they'll say, well, gee, I don't want to show a crap site, so I'll just skip that site and not rank it here. So you can lose a lot of rankings, and a good chunk of traffic, more and more and more, is turning out to be on a mobile platform like a phone or like an iPad and stuff like that. So if you're not mobile optimized, it's kind of a stupid move and you're losing a lot of traffic. The good news is, if you have like WordPress and stuff, there's themes and stuff available that automatically are mobile friendly, and there's a lot of stuff available to you to help with that right there. And the last one here is you want to also have decent load times. And what I mean by this is, simply put, don't have huge images on your site that have like, a ton of or like a large size in terms of like, not like size of like how large they look on your screen, but like how many megabytes and stuff they are. I mean, they shouldn't even be a megabyte. You want like a tiny fraction of that. But I've seen guys that will load like an image on their site that might be like 10 or 20 megabytes, when you want to have it be a tiny fraction of that, because you want them to load instantly. And oftentimes people get lucky in that, like if you're in a place in the world that has like super fast net, or even a place in like the country, like even within the US, there's some towns that just don't have super fast net. I mean, I know a lot of us are lucky enough where like we can load stuff insanely fast, and you might not even realize that it's a big deal. But to a lot of people, if you have a large image on your site, to them it might take minutes to load. And what Google basically says is, hey, if this takes minutes to load, that's a poor user experience. Let's not rank this guy because we don't want to piss off guys. So again, keep that in mind right there. And the biggest thing there is just making sure you don't have any like huge images or anything like that on your site there. You want to keep it as quick a load time as possible and as small a file size as possible right there. So with that, we'll move to the Q&A. We have some extra time here for any questions that you guys have, and then we'll do the cash giveaway. So for the giveaway, you just have to go to getwebfire.com/FB group, and then you'll see a post from Sharon at the very top asking what you thought of today's call. You'll click the comment link within that post right there. So make sure it's the post from within the past hour. Click the comment link within that, leave a comment within there, or essentially saying what you thought of today's call, and we'll pick a random winner within probably like 5 or so minutes, or probably more like 10 or so minutes from now, because we'll give you guys time to ask any questions and stuff that you have. So I'm just going to pause the screen for a second, and again, that link is just getwebfire.com/FB group. And again, any questions you have at all, feel free to ask, whether they're related to SEO or anything with marketing at all, because we have some extra time at the end of this call to basically answer your questions and stuff here. And of course, if you have any ideas for a future topic, let us know, or feel free to search the prior trainings and such that we have, because we have lots available there. All right, I'm just gonna go through some questions here.
Okay, so let me read you some, Brian.
Alrighty.
Okay, first one is, how do you check the image size?
All right. Well, there's actually a few things that you can do. One, we have a tool within WebFire. It's the website analysis tool, and when you do a search at the very bottom, it will tell you if your site loads fast or slow. For an individual image as well, like let's say you're trying to load an image. I don't know exactly what it is on a PC, but I think you can usually right-click most of those and go to like Get Info or something like that, and it will tell you the file size of it. And also, when you upload them, at least on a Mac, the Windows will typically tell you like what the size of that is right there. But it's not too hard to look that up right there.
Okay, good. And then someone asked the question, how does video size versus picture size affect the load? And presumably he means load time.
Yeah. So two things on that. One, a great way to get around that is to use YouTube. Because for like, if you have like, let's say you have like a how-to video or something like that, if you use YouTube or even like an Amazon cloud type thing, you can get around a lot of that stuff there. Because it is, especially on YouTube, they'll kind of optimize the video for you, and they'll run it through them. But if you have like, let's say, a video that's like 100 megs, or in some cases like even like a gigabyte, if you load that on your site, not only are you wasting like a ton of bandwidth and stuff, but it could take forever to load, and it can just absolutely kill your site. So there's ways to kind of like make those smaller that I won't get too into, because I personally don't do that myself. Like I have essentially a person on our team that can downsize that, but just by using YouTube by itself, you can get around a lot of that stuff and just upload it through there. All right, let's see what other questions there are.
Good. So somebody had a nice tip, which is if you're having trouble with your mobile pages loading quickly enough, you can use Google's AMP plugin, which is their Accelerated Mobile Pages plugin. And again, if it's not like you're not the rocket scientist technical person, just get someone else to use that for you. But that's a good tip for speeding up pages. Cynthia's asking, is there a maximum word count you recommend for catchy titles?
You know, rule of thumb is like, don't make it terribly long. Like I forgot the exact length offhand, because I mean I've done a lot of them, but like rule of thumb in my head was always like, you know, you want like a short sentence essentially. And if you do like a Google search for any term, you'll see an example of all the title tags there, essentially the blue links. That gives you an idea. Like you can't have like a paragraph long for like a title tag, because not only will they not look out that far, it won't show out that far. So usually it's just like a short sentence long. I have to look up the exact count offhand to see what Google does, but any kind of like a short sentence is what I shoot for there. And keep in mind, you can also use the description tag, which is basically under the title tag, to have a bit more space. Like that's like rule of thumb is that the description tag can be like a long sentence or two short ones, whereas the title tag is just like one short sentence. So that's kind of the rule that I go by right there. Francis said here, he said, some suggest that as SEO and video ranking are too difficult to be considered for local agency. I think he means like for like a local business or a local ranking. Actually, it's kind of like the exact opposite. For local stuff, ranking in SEO is like way easier in a lot of cases, because it's not like let's say you're let's say you want to rank for furniture store, you know, in Atlanta, Georgia, or Madison, Wisconsin. There's a lot less there than like worldwide, or trying to rank for like furniture worldwide, or if you're trying to rank for like lawyers in like, you know, a smaller town or like a mid-sized town or even a large city, there's a lot less there versus in the world, so it's a lot easier to actually rank there. And the key again is to use the keyword within the title, within the description, within the content, and for local stuff too, if you have it within the domain itself or within the URL, that can help. If you use a schema, that can help right there. Videos are also super easy to rank on the local stuff. So I mean, I think you were told wrong there, because it's almost the exact opposite. You're competing with a small on a smaller scale with a lot less competitors, so it's even easier. All right, let's see.
Yeah, and April just chimed in that local SEO is much easier, does it all the time for clients. So, okay, so here's a good question, Brian, that I think is probably like way beyond the scope of doing this, but someone wants to know, are there any good responsive tablet table plugins for WordPress? He needs to make some sentences with a different background, tried table press, but needs to create a table outside of where he writes the post. There should be a plugin where he can get a fact box or a section to look more interesting than a long text of white background.
You know, I'm probably not the best guy to ask on the WordPress stuff.
You're a better guy than me.
Yeah. So I mean, we have a plugin on the WordPress side that can basically handle all the SEO stuff. As far as like changing the templates and stuff like that, there's a ton of that stuff there. If you do like a Google search, you'll probably find, I mean, literally hundreds of ones that are free. You can just eyeball it and see like what stuff might kind of match what you're looking for there. But like there's tons and tons of free ones that, you know, available that have like, you know, mobile friendly templates, ones that have all sorts of different styles. So I would just say go that route. If you get lost, feel free to shoot this support a quick email, because I know there's basically guys on our team that make that basically work with that stuff a lot more, and do more of like the site designs and all that right there. All right, and just to clarify, there's a question here that basically talk about scores on domains versus keywords. So if you use the keyword tool inside a Webfire, it gives you a score, where essentially the higher the score, typically the easier it is to rank for that keyword. Now, when you do a website analysis that analyzes a site, it also gives you a score of how optimized that site is for that keyword. That does not say that you'll rank for that keyword. That just says how optimized your site is. So you might have a site that's, you know, 95% optimized for the keyword weight loss or diet, but that keyword itself might be super competitive. So the keyword and the keywords tool might have a really low score, but you can optimize your site really well for that word and have your site be optimized really high. That doesn't mean that it will rank then. So you have to make sure that you're optimized high and you have a keyword that gives you a good chance of ranking at the same time. Okay. Yep. And don't overthink. I said for like local businesses and stuff too, and even non-local ones, if you have the keyword somewhere in your domain or URL, it can help. But don't feel like you have to. Like if you already have a domain name, don't worry about it. You can also still have the keyword in the URL, like as part of the page, like website.com/, you know, and then whatever that page is, have the keyword there. The plugin that we have on the WordPress side and stuff, it can automatically help adjust your URLs for all the blog posts to contain the title of the blog post within the URL. All right. All right. Yeah, I'm trying to. There's a lot of questions we already answered here. So if you see anything new, Sean, feel free to pop in.
Yeah, the site's scrolling faster than I can read. Every time I get halfway through a question.
All right. So
Rebecca, you asked if there's a video on this. Probably the answer is yes, but what was this? And I can answer that better. Showing got covered.
All right. So John asked here, what would keep a website from not showing up on Google? Well, it depends. There's several things that can. That's kind of like saying, how can a person end up in jail? It's not just one thing. It can be like hundreds of things, from murder down to like, something simple. But assuming that you don't have the domain blacklisted, which is like if it was previously used for some bad stuff, that can sometimes be kind of red flag and they won't rank those. But usually the main thing typically is if you have a new site that Google has never heard of, what can help is if you have basically a couple backlinks going to that site, it can speed up the process of them seeing that site and knowing that that site exists. You can also use the Submit Your Site tool inside a Webfire. You also want to make sure that when you say, how do you keep it from, or what would keep a site from not showing up at all in Google, are you sure it does not show up at all, or just does not show up for the keyword you're trying to rank for? So one way to essentially tell is if you go to Google and you search for your own domain name, like, website.com or, something like that. If your site does not show, that means that they haven't indexed you yet, which either means you have a brand new site and that there's no link or there's nothing that you've done to get them to see that site, or something else is wrong or up with that site. So without seeing that site, I couldn't really tell. If I saw that site, I could probably take like a quick look and have like a rough idea, but feel free to send that into support if you indeed have one, unless you're just asking the question in general, and we can take a look there. As far as tips for ranking videos and stuff, a person asked that. Basically, it's almost the exact same stuff I just said can work here, but we also had a prior call on just videos where there's one that I shared, a YouTube trick where it's kind of along the same methods where you want to make sure you target keywords, even easier chance to rank for and all that, but you base the same trick on YouTube instead of just on Google. But there's also a trick that I showed where you can kind of hijack rankings from other videos and stuff. It's probably been a while since I've talked about that. I think I just call it like the YouTube trick. It's if you do a search on it, you can probably see it in the past Wednesday calls, but maybe on a future call, I can show off that trick as well. It'd probably take me like 10 to 15 minutes to explain all that, but that's a pretty fun one that I can revisit, which is like a cool trick to basically siphon traffic off of videos that are already ranking. So we can definitely talk about that on a future call. All right. All right.
So I'm not sure which ones you answered because I stopped listening while I was typing a long answer. But Andrea had a question about finding prospects for selling local services, local SEO and marketing services.
What was the name again?
well, I'm not sure if it's Andrea or Andrea, so I picked Andrea.
Okay.
I probably picked the wrong version, but.
All right. All right. So her question essentially is, how do you find prospects? Well, she says, all right. Yeah. So how you find prospects, we actually have prior calls on just that, but there's actually, so I highly suggest watching some of the past calls on that. But here's a rundown of just a few ways. One, let's say, I mean, there's tons of different services that you could sell, ranging from social media management to SEO, but let's just say SEO to start with. And there's also like lead stuff that you can do to help them find leads and manage those. But let's just start with SEO as an example. Well, one thing that you can do is you can use some of the lead tools inside of Webfire to find guys asking questions on SEO, or guys are asking for referrals for people that know SEO and stuff like that. And keep in mind, like even if you use like a tool like, let's say, the Tweet Lead Finder, you don't want to necessarily just search for SEO. You might want to also search for like the everyday language that people would use, like like they'll probably say get ranked on Google, or some term like that would be probably more commonly used by like a guy that doesn't know anything about SEO. And you can find those guys, you can find guys asking questions on it. And if you provide just like a minute or two of your time to basically help them, you can then like casually mention, in your email or in your reply that you do an SEO service, and then you can get some, good amount of prospects that way. If you want to be a little more ambitious, you can also just do like a local search, let's say for like dentists or chiropractors or whatever it might be in any town you want, and basically ignore the top half of page one and just basically contact the guys at the bottom of page one or the guys on page two, knowing that, hey, they don't rank for this main keyword, so they could probably use some help there. And you can just reach out to them over email, or even phone if you want, or anything like that as well. We also have a tool called Lead Power Machine that can help a lot with that right there as well. And another great thing that you can do is that you can offer something for free to kind of get your foot in the door, like a free website analysis, which you can actually have like almost like a white label version of our website analysis. Could be like it would appear to come from you instead of us. You can give out that for free. It gives like a custom report to them, and then you can turn around and say that you can offer to fix all the issues with their site and stuff. So it's something where you're basically providing those guys with value first and foremost, and then over time you'll get some of them to take you up on that free offer right there. And the better the free offer, the more likely you are to get them to take action on that. All right, it looks like April asked here, she said, is it true that keyword density is no longer that important as long as the content is optimized and keyword oriented? No and yes. So keyword density basically means how often the keyword is used. So a decade ago, if you were trying to rank for a keyword like weight loss tips for men, a decade or more back, probably even like 15 years back, you could trick the search engines by constantly reusing the same keyword over and over and over and over again. So like you'd have an article that'd say, here are some weight loss tips for men. Some of the best weight loss tips for men are yada yada yada. Some other weight loss tips for men are blah blah blah. Finally, another weight loss tips for men is blah blah. And you just reuse it so much where it doesn't flow well, it doesn't read well. You look kind of like an idiot. And that worked really well, like 10 to 15 years back, where like the higher the keyword density was, oftentimes the higher chance you'd have a ranking. Now that doesn't work that way. So you don't want to overuse a term, but it's still important that you do want to use the term somewhere. I find typically if you want to rank well, not only do you have to use the word somewhere in your title, but also at least once or so throughout the content, but you want to have it flow well and you want to have it be completely relevant. And we've actually, we haven't done this in probably a year, but it'd be a good time for us to maybe re-pull from stats maybe for next week's call or the week after. We have some stats where we actually look at all the user sites and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of other sites. I think actually hundreds of thousands of sites of user sites as well as competing sites of theirs, where we pull the stats and see what matters with how they rank. Like, what's the average keyword density, what's the average amount of backlinks, a bunch of stuff like that. And we actually track how that looks over time. So maybe on either next week's call or the week after, I'll actually have those stats pulled. So we have those stats essentially monitored, but I'll pull up the stats and throw those onto PowerPoint and stuff. And I think you guys will be pretty interested in seeing what the difference oftentimes is and how sites rank and how they don't with that. All right. Tron says here he's used the WordPress editor, had a problem. I don't know what you mean by WordPress editor. I don't know if you mean like you're trying to make a WordPress site, in which case that would have nothing to do with us. But if you have an issue with the plugin, make sure that you watch for like our SEO plugin. If it's ours, make sure to watch the tutorial on that, and then make sure you don't have a competing plugin that maybe is trying to override that. And if you still have an issue, just write support@webfire.com and make sure that we know exactly what you're referring to right there. Okay.
Hey, Brian, and we're now after the top of the hour, so
okay.
we got to wrap soon and let people keep rolling.
All right.
They got work to do now.
Yep. All right. So if you guys have any other questions, make sure to write support@webfire.com. I see there's a couple questions popped up, and we've been answering them in the chat and stuff. But again, anything else that pops up, just make sure to write support@webfire.com, or better yet, use the help desk inside the members area. So with that, I'll switch over screens now to the group page right here, where, again, if you go to getwebfire.com/FB group, and you leave a comment just right here where Sharon's posted a link asking what you thought of today's call. You want to post it right here within this one. Looks like some people posted in the wrong one accidentally, but try to make sure you have it in the right one right there. We'll pick a random winner in about 10 seconds, so I'll give you guys 10 more seconds to do a post right here. Just click on the comment. All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll refresh that. All right. All right, so good amount of comments right there. All right, so I'll count. There's a couple that posted outside accidentally. I'll count those this time. Oh, guess we're good on that one. All right, so 50 here. Plus 2 outside, plus 3. All right. 4, 5. All right, 5 plus 50, I think. Yep, so 55 in total. What do you think the winner will be, Sean? 1 to 55.
54.
23.
I was not even on the radar.
All right. Let's see. So 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 22, 23. All right. Martin Lane, if this is you in a pixelated form. Congratulations, you are $100 richer, or you will be as soon as you post up your PayPal email in the chat box to Sharon, so she can PayPal you $100 shortly this afternoon. So again, congratulations to Martin Lane for being this week's Wednesday Marketing Webinar winner. And as always, if you have any other questions or anything like that, again, just feel free to write us at support@webfire.com, or if you have any suggestions on future topics or anything like that, feel free to let us know. So with that, I hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and look forward to seeing you next week. Once again, every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll have a new call. So I look forward to seeing you guys next week, and have a great rest of the week, and I'll talk to you later, guys. Take care. Bye.